Lebanese Hezbollah guerrilla fighters have fought their bloodiest battle so far alongside Syria's ruling army for control of the strategic city of Qusair. At least 30 Hezbollah and at least 20 Syrian soldiers were killed. Hezbollah's interest into the cold civil war further supports fears that the conflict is spreading across the region. Our guest today is Jeff Laurenti. He is Senior Fellow at the Century Foundation and works on issues relating to the maintenance of international peace and security and the politics of American foreign policy. Jeff, it's always good to see you. I know you break these down into bite-sized pieces that I can understand. So now we find out that that the Lebanese Hezbollah fighters have become more deeply involved in this conflict. Sort of explain to me why, what their interest is, and how it changes the balance.
Well, this is a major development now, Debbie, when you have Hezbollah entering into Syria to fight on the side of the government. This is a key town, Qusair, close to the Lebanese border, and it's particularly important to the government to reclaim control of it in order to guarantee its access to the northern part of the country, because it sits astride the main road from Damascus on up. And Hezbollah has long been allied with the Assad government, but it is an outsider. That is, it is an outside country, and its involvement in the Syrian civil war represents a significant escalation in external involvement in the Syrian conflict. That isn't a game changer, but it certainly ratchets up the urgency of this. And you've had President Obama calling Lebanese President Michel Suleiman just yesterday, asking, can you control your border? They probably can't.
Right.
You have the European Union, which has been sitting on American requests to label Hezbollah's armed wing a terrorist group, now springing to life. In effect, this action inside Syria is bringing Hezbollah some consequences in terms of the Europeans that they've been trying to fend off. And finally, Hezbollah now has to justify to its own people why they have, quote, martyrs dying not fighting Israel, but fighting other Muslims in Syria. So it's very problematical. The Syrian government may or may not have been able to retake Qusair on its own, but certainly with Hezbollah fighters' help, they look to be claiming this, which would be a major step in their comeback.
And I understand why the Assad regime would want the support of the, as you say, Hezbollah fighters, but you know, what's in the fight for Hezbollah? What do they get out of this?
What they get is a continuation of their arms supply from Iran. Iran sends the arms to Damascus, to Syria. Syria then lets them slip across the border into Lebanon, into the arms of Hezbollah. And this is what has engaged the Israelis' interest. They've done several military strikes this year, all aimed, apparently, at caches of missiles bound for Hezbollah. So there is an Israeli dimension to this, and a fear that the Israelis now will have a higher stake than they already had when the one enemy on the ground that has actually fought them recently, because the Syrians have not fought them, but Hezbollah has fought them, now directly involves itself inside Syria.
You know, you would think it was almost counterintuitive, at least on the Assad regime's part, to bring Hezbollah in because of the great conflict that's between Hezbollah and Israel. And Israel has already proved, if I can use my own vernacular, they're not going to joke around with it. So in a way...
Very polite vernacular, I would say.
Indeed, in a way, the Assad regime has dragged Israel even further and even greater consequences. Is that a fair statement?
Well, the Assad regime actually might welcome more of an Israeli visibility in conflict with it, because it enhances its Arab nationalist credentials. Right now, it has been losing those credentials because of this grinding war against other Arabs, that is, other Syrians. So to remind people that we have been the leaders in facing down the Israelis, the Zionist enemy, they would say, may help refurbish a bit their nationalist credentials. Another element of this is that with Hezbollah, you now have a clearer sectarianization of this conflict. Hezbollah represents the Shiite Muslims in Lebanon, and the Syrian government is led by a branch of Shiite Muslims called Alawites, and it is largely Sunni Orthodox Muslims who are leading the fight against the Damascus government. The Christians who have been in Lebanon been long at odds with the Shiites inside Syria, have had a tacit alliance for most of the past 40 years with the Assad government because it maintained a secular and not an Islamic regime so they could breathe freely and live freely. So you have all of these moving parts in flux and not sure where they will end up. Now you have the prospect of the opposition on the Syrian side saying they don't want to go to this conference that Secretary of State Kerry, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov are convening in Geneva next month because they're not sure they want to have any negotiations with the Assad government now. Very complex, and the American goal of moving these to a settlement before Syria completely implodes is at risk as well.
I mean, I don't think the news could get any worse in this regard.
In this region, it can.
In this region, it can, yeah. Well, when the president visited Israel just a couple of months ago, I remember him making a statement that it's not a matter of if, but when the Assad regime would have to step down. Does this change that? I mean, are their days being numbered, no longer a given?
Well, I think that in 2012, you could see a consistent process of losing ground on the part of the Assad government. So there was general supposition that in the end, it either will fall or will be reduced to small enclaves of fellow Alawites. But over the past several months, A, the number of defections from the armed forces has virtually stopped. They've stopped that hemorrhage. And B, they have begun to take back areas. This battle for Qusair is, in fact, a sign of their comeback trail. Now, either they are looking to strengthen their position going into this on-again, off-again conference and the start of a negotiating track, or they think they can finally break the back of the armed resistance and impose their brand of a normalization. So we don't know how committed they are to a negotiated solution. They're certainly not eager about a transition that transits them out of power.
Right. And that's what this is all about when it comes down to it. Jeff Laurenti, thank you so much.
Certainly,
You
Deb.
always explain it in a way that I can understand. Appreciate it.